So with that, I'm excited for our first guest speaker. His name is Mr. Jeff Pfitzer. And Michael and Jeff have known each other for some time now. I've had the privilege to get to know Jeff over the past 4 or 5 months, and it's been awesome networking and working with him and just picking his mind around social media and to see the success he's had with business, his business. He is in the mortgage space, and he actually helps train realtors on social media because of the success that he's had. It's unbelievable to see what he does. I follow his content constantly. I'm getting ideas from his content and how he interacts and bring him into my world. He is a co-founder of Business Video School, which we're going to be talking a little bit more about how to, and actually seeing the other founder, Nick. And so what Jeff is going to do is he's going to show you how to leverage social media and video marketing, okay, to start building your brand and generating more business. Now, here's one thing I'd like to say. You don't want to be doing this during your outreach time, okay? So what he's going to teach you is going to be absolutely awesome, but the last thing you want to do is from that at least 8 to 11, that 11 to 12, okay, that's kind of, you want to make sure you get your outreaches in and you get all that other stuff in, and then do what he's about to teach you, because you can get caught up in this world and then never make a prospecting call. Okay, it's very easy to do. Trust me, I've fallen into that trap. Don't fall in that trap because you won't hit your goals right away. Okay, this is a branding approach that can generate some low hanging fruit, but it's going to set you up for the long haul, which is really, really important. That's what Jeff has done for himself. So I'm really excited, Jeff. Jeff, are you with us?
I am here.
Awesome. Great.
Now, so, Jeff, before Jeff gets started, I got to say something about Jeff. Jeff, for those of you that don't know, typical mortgage lender, loan officer, whatever you want to call them, is going to do, they're going to do kind of about the same numbers as real estate agents in terms of number of transactions per year, maybe a few more, but not a lot. Jeff Pfitzer, this is a guy, and Jeff, at the risk of embarrassing you, I will say this is a guy that does literally over 2,000 transactions a year. He's no freaking joke. And I would tell you that he has arguably the best video content on the planet. So I would listen closely to what he has to say about how to do this, because that's how he built his business, and it's massive.
Yep. Awesome. Take it over, Jeff.
Cool.
Thanks for being with
guys. Us. First speaker, which means there's been no bar set, which means I can't screw up. So this is good. I like it. I'm going to share my screen, so bear with me 1 second here. Let me know if you can see that.
We got it. We can see it.
Perfect. All right, cool. So today I am going to be talking about, so first of all, Nick Niehaus, one of my partners with the Business Video School, is on, and I'm going to pass the mic to him later on in the presentation. But today, because he's doing this all week with you guys, today I'm gonna dive deep on social media content strategies and go a little bit into video and some of the video quote unquote hacks that I use to make shooting video easier. But today, this is kind of like a part 2 to the last time I spoke to this group on content strategies and cadence and that sort of thing. And so if you missed that, I'm going to quickly recap it. But as you can see here, one of my favorite taglines is very simply this: you are a media company, create content to brand your life. And I'm going to talk about that today. I'm going to go a little bit deeper on some of the things that I do to create content that keeps me very relevant with my audience. And it's not Monday market updates. I can promise you that. So we're gonna dive in. But first, I want to recap what we talked about last time. Which is this. I suggest that you try to dominate at least 2 of the social media platforms. So we're talking about Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and TikTok. Those are the 5 that I focus on. I would focus on at least 2 of them, and I'll tell you the 2 that I suggest here in a second. Obviously, you got to understand the goal to social media, which is to create an omnipresence. It's to be visible to your database every single day that they open up these apps. And by the way, most humans open up these apps every single day. So that is the idea. That is the name of the game. And then with that, you build an authority status. And then as you build that status, you then start to connect. It's not a matter of how many followers you have or how many friends you have on Facebook. It's how are you connecting with the ones that you have. And so that's what's really important here. And so creating the content that interests them, that gets them to engage with you, is what is extremely important. The goal is building parasocial relationships. If you've never heard of this term before, Nick actually introduced this to me. It is one-sided relationships where one person extends emotional energy, interest, and time, and the other party doesn't know they exist. This is why I love social media, because it's better than a billboard. It's better than a grocery store cart. It's better than a newspaper ad. It's better than anything you could ever do because your audience is exponential. And so you could potentially have relationships with people that you have no idea who they are, but they're following you. If I had a nickel for every time I had a conversation with somebody who said, I feel like I know you. I feel like I know your daughter, Winter. I know your wife, Sarah. Yeah, it sounds a little creepy, but at the end of the day, that's me winning, because they get to know me and they get to like me without me having to actually show up to a networking event, without me actually having to expend any energy and getting to know them back. And then once they start to like you, they just naturally want to do business with you. So that's the name of the game, parasocial relationships. We talk about content strategies, the 6 F's. A lot of people always tell me, I don't know what to post. I don't have enough content to create content or post every single day. Well, everybody has this kind of stuff in their life. So I always say, focus on the 6 F's. Remember the F's: family, food, fashion, fitness, fun, finance. You all have that to some degree in your life. So just share that, and just share that part of your life every single day, because that's what your audience wants to see. My suggestions for your cadence on your content is this. So you have your feeds. Facebook and Instagram, we're going to talk about here. They all have a feed. That is when you open up the app and when you scroll up or down, right, you're on the feed. I suggest you try to post 4 to 5 times per week. You can go daily, by all means, go daily, but 4 to 5 times per week is a good number. Then you've got your stories, which I'm going to go a lot deeper on today. And that is actually completely different than your feed. You read that right. It says 5 to 7 per day. Now that's my strategy. If you're not doing anything right now, my suggestion is at least posting to your story every single day. And one of the biggest reasons I say that is simply this. If you notice when you open up Facebook or Instagram, where are the stories on your screen? They're at the top. What does that tell you that Facebook and Instagram put an emphasis on? Stories. So you need to understand and pay attention to what the apps are putting in front of you and what they want you to use. And then you need to exemplify that. You need to use that, right? And so you should be constantly sharing to your story. To me, my story is like a reality TV show on social media. It is my life that I'm sharing with my audience in my stories. Very non-invasive, but that's why people go there. They go there to see what you're doing throughout your day. And I'm going to share you a bunch of examples of that. Your bio is your SEO. This is something else we covered in the last one. We're talking more specifically about Instagram here. But if you have an Instagram page, which you should, if you don't, go get one. You should create, and I talked about this last time, you should have not a personal account. It should be either a creator or a business account. I prefer creator because it has the functionality of a personal, but also some functionality of a business. But in your bio, that is your SEO. So think like Google, search engine optimization. So on Instagram, whatever is in your bio is how people are going to find you. So use mine as an example if you like, or go find other people that have them like me, but you can see that it's very intentional. And I list things that I want to be known for, because what ends up happening is, especially on Instagram, if somebody sees a post and they don't know who you are, their tendency is to go stalk you a little bit and see what you're about and decide if they want to follow you. So you have to make sure that your bio is on point with who you want to be. And so make sure you pay attention to that. Again, that was in the previous presentation. Lastly, I talked about creating content pillars. So to be able to post as often as I suggest you post and as often as I post, you have to have pillars of content. You have to have topics that are easy for you to talk about every single day. And so what I suggest with everyone is you automatically have 2. You have your personal life. That's very all-encompassing. And then you also have your business. two content pillars right there. But you should try to find 3, 4, or 5. You should try to find extra ones. And what I mean by that is extensions of your life, your hobbies, your interests. So for example, I'm into fitness and diet. And so that is one of my content pillars. I create consistent content around that because it's easy. I'm already doing it. I'm living it. I shoot a lot of video. I'm involved with the business video school. I do a lot with social media. That's another content pillar for me. If you're into gardening, that is a content pillar. If it's something that you're going to be doing almost every single day or 12 months out of the year, you're going to be prepping your garden, you've got content and you've got something that will attach you to some of your audience, people that will resonate and say, I am also into gardening, or I'm into golf, or I'm into drinking beer. It doesn't matter. It's very simple. Anytime anybody tells me I'm not that interesting, I don't have anything, one of my hobbies is watching Netflix, I'm like, perfect. That's a content pillar. You could be doing reviews of your shows and talking about the shows that you're watching on your social media on a consistent basis, and you watch. You will get so much more engagement on that type of content than you will ever get on any business post that you ever post. And that's what then connects you to your audience. So again, I'm not putting out content because I'm thinking about what is going to touch the most people. I'm putting out content that's easy for me, that I'm already living. And I know that I'm not going to connect with all, 100,000 of my followers across the different platforms, but I'm going to have a really strong connection with hundreds of them. And those hundreds become my raving fans. And those are the ones who want to use me in their business or for business. Gary Vee says it best: document, don't create. I say this, I use this all the time. I like this one because it says very simply, don't overthink it. Stop overthinking, share your life. And I'm going to tell you more about what I do and give you some examples. I use this image here of a well for a reason, because I go to the well all the time. I'm human. I have many days where I'm just too busy. I just don't have it in me. I don't feel like posting today. But I know that I set some goals for myself. I have a content strategy, 4 to 5 feed posts every single week, 5 to 7 stories every single day. There's not one day that you will ever see my story without something posted. And usually it's going to be 5 to 7. And so what I do is I just do exactly what Gary Vee says. I document my life. I'm taking pictures and videos of things that are happening throughout the day, every single day. And there are some days when I've already reached my 5 to 7 posts, right? And so like I might have shared something from one of my kids or multiple kids that I'm not going to post that day. And I'm going to go back to the well. It might be 2-3 months later that I'm just scrolling through my camera. I'm like, ooh, I never did post that. I'm going to go ahead and post it. And you know why? Because my audience doesn't know when that happened, and nor do they care. The whole point is just staying consistent so you can play the algorithm game and stay very relevant with the platform, so that your face, every time your audience is showing up, every time they're opening the apps, you're right there in front of them. It's the same concept as any other marketing. You're not always going to get massive engagement, but you want to just be relevant. You want to be remembered. So remember that. Document more of your life, and then go to the well whenever you need to. So let's talk about the two platforms. I mentioned that you should dominate at least 2 of the platforms, and I mentioned Facebook and Instagram, and here's why. So the reason why I say 2 platforms is because it's really easy. Why? Because you can connect your Instagram to your Facebook, and you can post to Instagram and then push one little button when you click post, so that it automatically also posts to Facebook. I try to make life easy, right? I want to be efficient. I don't want to spend more time working. I want to spend less time working. But I also know that this is such a relevant part of my business strategy. Like Michael said, we have grown our business. We'll probably do 2,500 transactions this year. That didn't happen by accident, and it didn't happen overnight. But because I've followed through with what I told myself I was going to do, that's what has occurred. It has created massive opportunity with people that I would have never, ever been able to meet or touch had it not been for social media. And so, again, this is why I'm so passionate about Instagram, because Instagram to me is the future of social media. I mean, YouTube is obviously very important, but YouTube is an advanced strategy. So when I'm talking to the masses, I'm typically going to focus on Instagram because Facebook is very important and it's still very relevant. But if you have teenagers, you know that they don't spend any time on Facebook anymore. They've all migrated to, obviously they use Snap for their communication tool. A lot of them are on TikTok, and most of them are all on Instagram, and they vacated Facebook for Instagram. And so if you want to have any relevance in the social media world in the next 5 to 10 years, Instagram is the place you should be. Plus, like I said, it makes your life easier because every time you post your story or your feed, you can connect them, and you can connect both your personal and your business Facebook page if you have a creator or business Instagram account, so that when you run ads on Facebook, they will automatically be run on Instagram as well. So you're just touching a broader audience. So that's why I suggest using that specific strategy and making sure you are working and focusing on building a brand on Instagram. So I mentioned stories, and this is actually an interesting little image that I found when I was creating this slide deck. You notice it says in 2019, why stories will dominate social media in 2019. I thought that was interesting because I actually think this graphic was a little bit before its time, because I think stories have evolved and become far more important today than they were then. Does anybody know where stories came from? Where Facebook and Instagram got the idea for stories? The answer is Snapchat. If anybody says Snapchat, you got it right. The reason for me saying that is because if you ever notice, Facebook's, Mark Zuckerberg specifically, is very notorious for copying. So they copied stories. Instagram has now copied TikTok. I pay attention to my teenagers because they're always telling me what's next. If I just pay attention to what they're doing, obviously as a parent as well, but it's also really relevant in my business. And stories are absolutely dominating on Facebook and Instagram in 2021. And so having that presence there is super important for your brand. And so, again, I get a lot of people when I do this, the question is, okay, again, 5 to 7 a day, that's nuts. Like, I don't have time for that. And the reality is, Michael told you about how big our business is. Do you think I really have time for this? No, I make time for it, but I build it into my life. And so I'm going to show you an example of just one day of some of the content that I've created. And while I'm doing this, I'm actually going to show you some of the functionality in stories. So this image that you're looking at right now was, I think it was last month. I took my kids to a Cardinals game and took a picture, right? So it was in my camera roll, right? So I went to my stories and I clicked upload. I want to upload a story. This is what will happen. So I put this picture in here because I can choose from my camera roll. And then you'll see these little buttons at the top of your story. These are the functionality that I like to use. You're not going to use all of this stuff. So I'm not going to go through all of it because a lot of it's not necessarily relevant, but the two I'm going to show you are the two I use the most. So this little guy right here, which is a little square with a smiley face kind of folded over, that is where you go to get GIFs. That's where you can go to tag a location, hashtag, you can choose images, all this stuff. This is what pops up. So this is what you will see. You can scroll down or you can scroll up and you'll see all kinds of options. You can search for stuff, and I'll show you an example of this, but you're going to use this function of your stories, and you should be using it on almost every single story because, again, I could just post this picture, but if I'm not telling a story or if I'm not giving it context, it's less likely someone's going to spend any time on it. And I'll show you exactly what I mean by that. Then you've got the little 2 A's over there. You see the capital A, the lowercase a. That is to add text, right? So that's also up there. I use that a lot as well. So this next image is what happens when you click on that little A. It's going to pop up a screen where you can then choose different fonts. Up, that's right here in the middle. At the top here, you can choose the color. You can choose if you want it to have, like there's 3 different options. It can be just text, or it can have like a color fill on the background, and it can even be animated. There's all kinds of little functionality you just need to play with, but I highly encourage you using this functionality. So that is what it looks like when you do that. Now, here's what it's going to look like when I actually posted the thing. So you can see what I did there. I took a picture of the fireworks going off in the background, which you can see that obviously you can see the fireworks there, but you can see that I added, that's a winner. So I added some text. You can see I added it with the certain font that I used. This is actually an active one. So let me see if I can push play here on it. Yeah, there we go. You can see what I did with it. So I'll hit that. You see that? There's fireworks. I added fireworks. That was a GIF. That was from the actual GIF screen that I showed you. And I just typed in fireworks and that's what popped up. You can see that that's a winner is dancing back and forth. Winner is moving. There's activity there, right? I tagged my kids that are on Instagram. I tagged my location of Busch Stadium. I also put a little text right here. You can see it's very subtle. I suck at selfies because clearly I suck at selfies. Cash's face, half face is cut off. Kaylee's face is cut off. Clearly I'm not made for making selfies, but you get the point. And that's what I wanted to show you. There's a lot of fun things you can do to animate your stories. Here's another example. This was literally, we're walking into the stadium. And so I just videoed my kids walking down to the seats. There's nothing to it. I added some text telling a story. I'm taking the OGs. Those are my older kids. I have a 2.5-year-old daughter. Taking my OGs to the Cards game, first game of full capacity, and we're back in our seats, which was a big deal. This is it. All it is my kids walking to this isn't rocket science, right? All I did was video that and had my kids walk into their seat and I shared it with my audience. Very simple stuff. Anybody can do this. Here's another example. This is an example of a feed post. So I shared this to my Instagram feed and I took that feed post and shared it to my story. So again, that particular day, I might've been needing to go to the well on what I wanted to post because I wanted to mix it up. I want to share my family, but I also want to remind people of my pillars of content and what I'm into. And so this was a great example of, this is a social media particular post. And so I just shared it to my story and I animated it. I added the text and I added a little arrow that bounces back and forth. Again, very simple stuff. Here's another one, same thing. All I did was I shared a feed post and then I added this little hand and I put the save for later GIF because I'm telling my audience, hey, how do you pick hashtags? Here you go. You should save this. I'm trying to basically, it's a call to action. I'm telling my audience what you should do with this post, because if you take this seriously, then you want to go back and use this when you're posting to social media. Anybody can do this kind of stuff. A couple more examples. This is the same night. This is the kind of goofy stuff that I share, but I know this entertains my audience because it gets a lot of interaction. People comment on this stuff. We got home from the Cardinal game that night. And I noticed, you ever water your lawn and the sprinkler like has a mind of its own and it changes direction? Well, my wife was the one watering the lawn. And so I got home and this is what it looked like. So that's my driveway and it was soaking wet. And so I told a little story. I said, sometimes I can't figure out what at Sarah Pfitzer, my wife, is watering. And then I typed, and then I realized that we'll have the greenest, most lush driveway in the subdivision. Just making a joke, like poking fun at my wife, but that's what she and I do on social media a lot. And it entertains our audience. So we have a little bit of fun and it makes us super authentic. Another example of something that I do pretty consistently, which is I'm sitting in my basement office at home and I have a bird feeder out there. And this little squirrel likes to get into my bird feeder. What do? I turn on my camera. I was actually on a webinar, listening to a webinar, documenting this. I'm just multitasking. You see the squirrel jumped across onto the bird. This is just the simple stuff. The point is, this stuff is happening either way, right? I just have the mindset of I'm going to document it and share it with my audience because I know that my audience is interested in my life and not what Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are doing, right? Another great example of what was happening in my life. I got a letter from the neighborhood saying I needed to trim down this front piece of my lot that I intentionally kept long, and I wasn't happy about it. So I kind of posted it on social media and said, are you happy now? We're having it trimmed down. Super simple stuff. An example of what you guys are doing right now. You're sitting on a webinar. I was on a webinar one day with Tanya Eberhardt with a company called Brandface. She was advising me on my brand. And so what did I do? I took a simple picture of me and her on my laptop and I told a little story. I added, 4 different text boxes. And then I even put a swipe up because I have enough followers to do that, to actually send them somewhere. So I was promoting her. I was sending them back to their website. But I told a story with a very simple image, as you can see. And again, I animated it like I always do. And then the last, I think, share I have of a story and this is a great example of how I can create content out of thin air. This is a text conversation with my wife that I thought was funny. I was playing in a golf tournament and I was complaining about it being hot. And her response was, "You can take Winter, who's our youngest daughter, run to the store and then entertain her while she's throwing temper tantrums while doing laundry and cleaning, and I'll go play golf." Basically telling me to suck it up. It's exactly what she did. And I shared it to my audience and just made people laugh. And that's the point. And so hopefully sharing these examples with you kind of tells you that, listen, anybody who says, I don't have anything in my life, well, you're just wrong, because this is very simple stuff. Very, very simple stuff. All you do is document your life, share it with your audience. That's what your stories are for. So for anybody who's asking the question right now, well, isn't this too much? Like, is it just too much with my audience? Is it too much stuff? The answer is no. Yes, it is on your feed. You don't want to be sharing this just little nonsense with your feed posts. Those need to be your more profound posts. But when you're sharing to your stories, think of it like a reality TV show. And in a reality TV show, they are literally getting intimate with whatever family or whatever reality it is and showing you the intimate details of what goes on behind the scenes. And that's what your story is. Your story is your own reality TV show for your audience. And I know, because I know exactly what my engagement is. I have a lot of followers on both platforms, and I probably get on average 200 to 300 of engagement, people engaging my stories every single day. When you think about it, that's not really that much. But at the same token, that's 200 to 300 people every single day that are seeing me. That's powerful. And oh, by the way, I'm not paying for that. That's free. I just my time just to create some content. And so it's super, super valuable. So hopefully that helps when it comes to stories. Now I want to get into some video tips. And I'm going to tell you right now that Nick's going to give you some very tactical stuff this week. He's 10x smarter than I am when it comes to video. The only thing I'm good at is just being consistent. And so I've found certain ways to make creating video a little bit easier for myself. Here's what I use on the consistent basis. I do have a full-time videographer, but I use him for a fraction of my content because I'm creating so much of it, he couldn't keep up. So I have to do a lot of it myself. So my camera is this. It's my iPhone. Very simply, you don't need to have a fancy camera. Nick will tell you that as well. If you want to have a fancy camera, he'll tell you which one he recommends. I recommend having a tripod. I recommend doing very few videos where you're actually holding your camera because it just can create a little bit of nausea. Your audience doesn't want to be shaking when they're watching you. So just simply get a tripod or set your camera up. But these are super inexpensive, 20, 30 bucks on Amazon. So get one, get five like I have. And I keep them in my office and my home and my car because I never know when I'm going to need it. So get a tripod. And lastly, I've been using this a lot lately, is a teleprompter app. I use Prompt Smart Pro, which was recommended by Michael Glazer, who is a part of the Business Video School. I actually do have the paid version, but it's super inexpensive. It's like 50 bucks for a lifetime or something like that. It's not expensive at all. And it makes my life 10x easier when I'm creating videos, because I know it, because I talk to people all the time. They would be like, this 1 minute video took me 2 hours to produce. Oh my gosh, it's so ridiculous. I just had to get it perfect. And first of all, you don't. But what I've learned is if I spend 5 to 10 minutes scripting my videos and then using a teleprompter, you have no idea that I'm reading it. And I look like I'm super eloquent. I have no ums. They're well put together. And I'm going to show you some examples here in a second. So a teleprompter app, to me, is an extremely important piece of your video strategy. And here's an example of some of the content that I make. So for those of you who know me, I love TikTok. And I'm not going to get deep into that, but it is by far and away the single greatest content creation app on the planet. This technology is super advanced. It's amazing. And I can do so much inside of it. But here's an example, and that's all I'll say about TikTok. I can do an entire presentation on that, Isaiah, if you ever want me to. But what I like to do within TikTok, what I've learned is that up until recently, you only had up until a minute. You have a minute of content that you can create. Now it's gone to 3, which I don't like that, by the way, but because I'm a big fan of short form content. Our attention spans are currently less than that of a goldfish. And so those of us who can create content in the shortest possible version or form are the ones who are going to win, are the ones who are going to get the most eyeballs, or the ones who are going to get the most engagement. And so that's why I love TikTok, because what it's done is it forces me to take my educational content, where in a previous life, I would have probably talked for 3 to 5 minutes just blabbering on. And it forced me to script the content down to be very concise, to where it has to come in less than 60 seconds. And so I mentioned the teleprompter. This is actually the first version. So I teleprompt some stuff, and I'll show you that on the next slide. This is another example of what I do to make creating content easy. I script it. So you see on this left side, there's a blue script, literally, right? So this is my script. And what I do is I break them down into one-liners. So that way, when I'm shooting my videos, I only have to remember one line at a time. And then it creates a jump cut situation. And a jump cut, I'll show you what that means. But all that is read a line, stop, look at your script, read the next line, stop. And not when I say read it, I mean, I look at it, I memorize it, and then I press play and I play it. You also have to learn a little bit of editing skills here. This is why the Business Video School is here, because we can teach you that. These are primitive editing skills, folks. Don't let that lose you. Don't think to yourself, oh crap, I have to become a videographer. I was taught by a 13-year-old how to edit videos. Most teenagers can show you how, and we can as well. But this is how I do it. And I break it into one line segment. So I'm going to play this video for you, and you're going to see here. So the script is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lines, 10 individual lines. And you'll notice if you watch closely that each line has a cut, because I said the line, I stopped, I restarted, stop, restart, stop, restart. This is a very popular YouTube video strategy. And if anybody is paying attention to anything, YouTube is the future of television. So this is popular. So here, I'll play this for you. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but I'll play it for you. Let me know if you can hear it, Isaiah.
Take a guess. Who will make up 70% of new U.S. homeowners by 2040? 70%. Did you guess Hispanics? That's right. Young Hispanic households will lead the explosion, as they are expected to triple over the next 2 decades. And you know, I'm always talking about positioning yourself for future success. Marketing to millennials and Gen Z is important as it relates to generations, but Hispanics by far and away are going to be the biggest ethnic group.
So I'm going to stop right there and just point a few things out to you. So what I'm doing is, so as you can see, I'm eliminating ums. There is no ums. I'm not having to think about what I have to say. It's one line at a time. But you'll also notice that I'm changing the background each time I talk. All I'm doing is changing my camera angle. I shot the whole thing on my deck at the Lake of the Ozarks, but I just changed camera angles to stimulate my audience, because that way it's not just a continual talking head. It's called a jump cut. That's what it is. And so again, you can see how I'm doing. I think everybody can see that. So I'll let this video finish out here.
Consider building a marketing plan around. Do you have a Latino division of your company or brokerage? Do you have Spanish-speaking members of your team? Well, you should. So pay attention to the data.
And that's it. That's simple. And so what I did is I took a piece of content, which this was specific and geared towards the real estate community, real estate and mortgage. And I took something that I could easily blabber on about for 10 or 15, well, I'll say 3 to 5 minutes. How about that? And that's sub 60 seconds. And now my audience has come to know me as the guy who will give you bite-sized content, powerful, packed with a punch in under 60 seconds. What do you think that does for them when I show up on their feed? It means they're probably more likely to watch my stuff. And that's the name of the game. Here's another example. This is what you would see in Prompt Smart Pro. So I wrote out a script, I copied and pasted it into Prompt Smart Pro, I labeled it, and what ended up happening, and this is the result. So this was actually a promo. So I spoke at a local event on video, and they asked me to create a video for them. This is actually me in Phoenix at the last Club Wealth event. I stepped outside, put it into, oh, by the way, put the script, I typed the script while I was sitting at my booth at the event, sitting with Nick and Vanessa, put it into Prompt Smart Pro, walked outside with my phone and my teleprompter, and this is what you got.
Do you like the idea of attracting business versus chasing it? Do you realize the power that all of you have at your fingertips to touch more? Do you like the idea
I'm
of
reading
attracting
this.
business
I'm
versus
reading
chasing
this.
it? Do you realize the power that all of you have at your fingertips to touch more of your audience and potential clients every single day? Metro East Masterminders, I'm Jeff Pfitzer, and I'm excited to be coming back and sharing more about what has catapulted our business and created opportunities beyond my wildest dreams. And I am not kidding. It's as easy.
I think you get the point. And the point is just using something like a tool like that. And, you know, it takes some skill to get good at scripting, but it's not that hard. You just have to think ahead about what do I want to say, put it to paper, make it concise, upload it into the app, learn how to use the app, which is really simple, and it's a done deal. And it makes it so much easier so that my videos now, I'm totally giving you guys my secrets here, but if I put myself up against the vast majority, if not all of my competition, I'm going to be 10x more eloquent than any one of you, and then some, because I planned for it and I used the tools that we all have access to. It's really that simple. Lastly is Instagram Reels. And I think I know I'm running out of time here. I think if I'm looking at my clock, I don't know what your clock says, but I've got about maybe 9 or 10 minutes. I don't think I have
10 minutes is cool. That's great.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Usually what I do here is actually create an Instagram reel, but I'm not going to do that today because virtual is a little bit harder than doing this in person. I'll shoot a reel while I'm standing in front of the crowd just to show you how easy it is. But I am going to show you how to use the tool. So I mentioned Instagram Reels. I mentioned TikTok and how Instagram copied TikTok with Reels. I also mentioned how important Instagram is. Instagram Stories is at the top of the feed when you open up the app. So it's very important to be using the stories every single day. Well, Instagram Reels is brand new to the platform. It was brand new a year ago, and it's continually evolved, and it's becoming more and more important. We just got news recently that Instagram Reels are now going to be able to be shared to Facebook. That's also very powerful. So those of you that are using the resources, using the technology that you have inside of these platforms, you're going to get more reach. You're going to touch more people. You're going to potentially go viral. And that's what you want. At the end of the day, you want to gain more eyeballs because it gains more potential clients. And so using Reels is extremely important. So I'm just going to do a quick tutorial here. And by the way, it's funny that this is by chance. I didn't do this intentionally, Nick. Right now, we're actually doing a challenge inside of the Business Video School with our students about creating Instagram Reels. We're teaching this right now in the school. So this is going to be a really simple tutorial, but just like I showed you in stories, the functionality of the app, I'm going to show you here real quick. So when you go to create, so in Instagram, when you go to create a post, you can create a feed post, you can create a story, you can do an IGTV, you can go live, you can create a reel. Okay, those are your examples. I think there's one other one too. But this is what will happen. So if you choose reel, this is what's going to pop up. It's going to open up your camera. No different than anything in any other platform, basically. And you can choose something that's already existing on your camera, or you can shoot something right here. And a lot of times you're going to just shoot them within Reels because it's very much like TikTok. So these are your options. You've got the option to add music, which if you guys understand TikTok, you understand that's one of the coolest features of it. You can add licensed music legally without having to pay for licensing or without getting muted. So that's really important. You can choose the length. One of the biggest detriments to Reels, in my opinion, is they only offer two options, 15 and 30 seconds. They need to increase that to a minute. But they haven't yet. So, but that's okay because it's short form content and that's what you want. So it forces you to keep them short. You can adjust the speed. You can speed it up, slow it down. You can use effects, touch up, all the same functionality that you're going to see in a lot of these cameras and a lot of like TikTok. And then also a timer to where you can actually set up your camera, and you got a 3 and 10 second option to where you could set up your camera, step back, get in position, and the timer will count down and start playing. This is all stuff you learn as you get used to using these apps. But those are the buttons you're going to see. You're going to see this little button there in the bottom right. That is just to which way the camera is facing. Is it facing you? Is it facing away? Very simple. This little guy right there in the bottom left corner is to access your camera, your photo album. So if you have a pre-existing video, you can upload it there. I do a lot of that actually, but I also create a lot within the app. And then lastly, this button right there in the center is your play button. So you can push it once to start playing. You can push and hold it. You can do different options. I like the push and hold option because when you let go of it, it stops. And so you can shoot different jump cut segments like I taught you right there within the app. You don't have to have any editing skills whatsoever. So that's pretty cool. The next page would look like this. So actually same page, but at this point now I've pressed play. You can see at the top here, there's these little pink segments. So as you can see here, I don't know, it might be small on your screen, but they're actually broken up into 3 different segments. So what that means is I pressed play, stop, press play, stop, press play, stop. It's too hard to actually, this presentation isn't about creating reels, it's just a quick one so you can get an idea of what it is, but that's what it'll look like. So it'll show you how far I've gone and how far I have to go. It would fill up the entire screen here all the way to the right if I filled it up. So that's that arrow there. And then of course, once you've created a video, this little button is going to pop up, the preview button, which then will take you to the next screen where then you have the options just like your stories. So you'll notice that these buttons here at the top are very similar. They're very similar to what I showed you in your stories. Why? Well, because the app wants to have simple functionality. They want you to use their tools. So the same thing here, you can use this little button where you can open up GIFs and you can do tags and all kinds of stuff, and you can add text. It's also really cool because you can add text. A lot of you have seen videos where the text leaves the screen. Like you can set it up to where it will only play for the first 5 seconds and then new text will pop up and then that will leave in 5 seconds. It all has that functionality. This stuff is advanced technology. It's really cool. And then the next button, of course, is to go forward to where you would then post. What I want to point out here is simply that you should always write a caption for everything. Reels gives you the option to post it to your story or to Reels. Reels is a separate section of Instagram, but a section that's very important to be using right now. So make sure you write a caption. You can change the cover photo of the video to be whatever is going to grab their attention. You can toggle this button right here in the middle to share it to your feed or just to Reels. I don't always share them to my feed, but because sometimes I create multiple Reels in one day and I just don't want to inundate my audience. I don't want to annoy them because your feed, remember, is not like stories. You can annoy away on stories, but on your feed, make sure it's the most profound stuff. So I don't always do it. This is where you would tag people. And then of course, at the bottom here, this is where you would either share it or many times I will create a video, but say I want to add some effects to it and I want to add some animation and I want to add some text. And that's going to take me 10 minutes, but I don't have time because I'm, literally at the amusement park on a ride, right? Well, that's where I would hit save to draft. And then I can go back later. The video is created. I can go back and edit it later. And again, that's a whole nother class in and of itself. And ironically, we're teaching that right now in the video school, but that's where you would do all of that. And then I will end with this. I'm going to turn it over to Nick. If anybody's heard me speak, you've heard me say this. My bleep poster video will outperform your absent poster video all day long. Let me say that one more time. If you're struggling with consistency, if you're struggling with, I don't know what to create, you're struggling with, I'm not very creative, let me remind you that your existent poster video will outperform the non-existent one every single day. So stop overthinking it and just post it. Document the journey of your life. It's super simple. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Nick, where he's going to talk about something that we're offering in the video school, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, and I'll actually mention 2 things here real quick. And for those of you that don't know me, I'm going to be back here the next 2 days, so I'll give you an introduction at that point. I want to keep this short. First of all, if you are a member with Ren or you're a member of Business Video School and you'd like to learn more about making Instagram Reels, we are running our video challenge currently. That actually registration closes in just 2 days. So if you haven't already, get into your Ren dashboard and get your free account set up there. If you're not a Ren customer and you'd like to become a student with us, we'll be talking about that over the coming days. Now, what Jeff has here in the slides is something that we offer for free, sort of our version of a trial of Business Video School. So what we did is we actually came up with a whole bunch of mini lessons. Like these are anywhere from about 1.5 minutes to in some cases 5 or 6 minutes long. And the idea is that these are really short, digestible, basically lessons, right? These are sort of mini lessons on different topics and videos. So there's a whole bunch of them listed. I'm not going to read them all. You can kind of scan through the screen right here for just a second. But if you're new to video, if you've only made a few videos and you're looking to get better and you just like some free help, right? You'd like some tips, some tricks, you know, how to hold the phone, what to say when you're on camera, how to get more comfortable on camera, all that kind of stuff. That's going to be available in this 14-day mini course. So if you want to go to the next slide there, Jeff, the way you get signed up for that is just text the word mini course to 44222. That's all you got to do, right? So you go to your text message, like you would send any normal text message. You put the phone number in as 44222, and then the word you send is just mini course. That's all you got to send over, and you'll be good to go. So if you send that in, it'll ask you for your email afterwards. You'll get signed up, and then you'll receive our free mini course from Business Video School.
Wow,
And
that's
what we
awesome.
got.
That's a
Thanks.